Greetings, respected viewers. So here we are, over 7 months into Putin's illegal war of aggression against his democratic neighbor, the Republic of Ukraine. And I'm very pleased to say that the Ukrainians are liberating their territory, having retaken the city of Lyman. And Putin made one of his few sensible decisions in the whole war, which is allowing his troops to withdraw from Lyman before they were enveloped and presumably forced to surrender. But it looks like he's not doing that in Kherson, and that they may well be trapped and obliged to capitulate, the troops in Kherson. Anyway, so it's only a day since, 2 days since Putin he illegally claimed 4 districts of Ukraine: Kherson, Zaporizhia, Luhansk, and Donetsk. Said they're going to be fused with the Russian Federation, and of course this goes to the Russian Parliament on Monday, which will be the 3rd of October. They're debated for a few days, and you can bet the house on the fact that the Ukrainian regions will be so-called integrated into Russia by a vote of the Russian Parliament, which of course is a complete rubber stamp. Putin has never lost a vote in the Russian Parliament in 23 years. It's just a question of how many he's going to win by, who would take it by. I remember when Russia illegally claimed Crimea. Of all the hundreds of people in the Russian Parliament, there was one who had the incalculable courage to vote no. We're not going to legally claim this territory. He later fled to Ukraine, where he was murdered sometimes later. And who on earth would do that? It's obviously Putin's minions. So obviously the war's not going very well. Of the 300,000 called up 10 days ago, the first couple of thousand have actually reached Ukraine, the United States has said, but they didn't say where on the front they are. But it's going to be a big problem arming these people with kit that's been rusting in warehouses for decades. Some have got no training whatsoever, others have been trained years ago, no refresher courses, other people rush through a fortnight refresher course and things like that. Remember that military technology would have moved on since some of these guys were in the army. They're physically out of shape and so forth. Some of them are too old, so those who are not rich enough, well connected enough, clever enough, or quick thinking enough to evade this draft. And there have been these anti-draft protests, over 2,300 people arrested for opposing the draft. Notice they're not all necessarily against the war, they just don't want to fight it themselves. I'm a chicken hawk. There are wars I thought the United Kingdom should have been fighting, but no, I wasn't going to put myself in harm's way. So there are other signs that Russia's increasingly isolated. India, China, any of the countries which have a fairly amicable relationship with Russia, they did not applaud Russia seizing this territory. And the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, to give him his due, he did denounce this as illegal, as against the United Nations Charter and all norms of the conduct of civilized nations. Because he's UN Secretary General, you might have thought that Guterres feels he has to sit on the fence a bit for fear of alienating Russia too much. But when there is such a flagrant and outrageous violation of international law, well, he has to call it out, and he has. But Russia has been getting away with this. Anyway, there are increasing signs that Russia is isolated. On the 29th of September, the last 3 Turkish banks permitting the use of the Mir payment system stopped it. Mir cards were created in 2015 for Russia to help Russians evade any possible bans on international payment systems such as Visa or MasterCard. Mir meaning world in Russian, or indeed can mean peace. So and these 3 Turkish banks, Türkiye Halk Bankası, TC Ziraat Bankası, and Türkiye Vakıflar Bankası were the ones that stopped doing so. They haven't officially disclosed their reason, but unofficially they said, yes, of course, it's because the United States said we will sanction you if you don't do this. The Turkish government is going to make some sort of statement about this. So even the Kremlin said, yeah, it's because the United States put the frighteners in them that either you block Mir or we're going to impose sanctions on you. And everybody knows who's got more economic clout in the world. Before this war, Russia, with 145 million people, had an economy the size of Italy. So a country, Italy, which has got a population about a third of the size of Russia, but now it's would have shrunk considerably, roughly 10% this year, a few more percent next year, a few more percent the year after. Bear in mind, for example, the United Kingdom is due to transition to all renewable energy in 15 years. Most European countries, not long after. So they won't be selling any oil or gas at all in 25 years, not even to India, not even to China. So It's notable that Turkey is taking this action. Turkey allows visa-free entry for Russians. It's the single most popular holiday destination for Russians, which is one of the reasons why the Turks did not stand firm against Russia, because they don't want to lose out on the money. Last time they had a serious tiff, 2015, when a Russian jet violated Turkish airspace and the Turks shot it down. Putin banned flights to Russia, Russian flights to Turkey, so very few Russians went on holiday to Turkey that summer, and it hit the Turkish economy. So anyway, Russians are seeking to evade sanctions in the draft, indeed, some of them, but those are going to Turkey, stay for up to 90 days without a visa, go home to Russia, you can go again, but you can't stay more than 180 days a year. So Russians traveling to Turkey advised to take a large amount of cash. So some of these Russians who are evading the draft, going to Kazakhstan, for example, stay 30 days without registering, register the police, stay further 60. Well, what are you going to do after 90 days? You could do the same thing in Uzbekistan for 90 days, Tajikistan for 90 days, Kyrgyzstan for 90 days, Armenia for 90 days, Georgia for 90 days. Is that 2 years yet? By which time the war will hopefully be over. But other countries that allowed the Mir payment system to be used, they've also stopped it. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan and Tajikistan, 3 former Soviet republics. Remember, Uzbekistan's the 3rd largest population in the quantum Soviet Union, the 2nd largest being Ukraine. Kazakhstan is the 2nd largest in area. Tajikistan is a very small, poverty-stricken country, mountainous country in Central Asia. Anyway, so they're not allowing the use of Mir either. Considering their very deep economic bonds with Russia, you'd think they'd carry on, but even they recognize, Russia's on a busted flush. So the only countries in the world that permit the use of Mir are Armenia, Belarus, Kyrgyzstan, Vietnam, and very surprisingly, the Republic of Korea. Yeah, South Korea. Don't know why they're letting it. So Armenia is desperately dependent on Russia. Belarus is likewise little more than an extension of Russia these days. Kyrgyzstan is a very underdeveloped country in Central Asia, an erstwhile Soviet republic. They've got 1 million guest workers in Russia, and they really need not to hack off the big bear. Vietnam, obviously a former communist country in Southeast Asia, which has got cordial relations with Moscow. Anyway, so it was in September 2022, so it was last month, that Washington, D.C. warned that any foreign banks which permit the usage of the Mir payment system shall face sanctions. So Turkey was allowing up until now because Turkey is a major transit hub for Russians flying abroad. Remember, roughly 40 countries have banned Russian airlines and Belarusian airlines overflying their airspace. So Ruskies often fly to Istanbul in particular, and from there transit on, change planes to fly wherever else it is in the world. So as you can see, it's going really badly for Russia, but doesn't prove they're going to lose the war. And at least of the people they're trying to call up in the last sort of month, the 437,000, some of those are going to be called up, some of those will go into the battlefield, and they won't be all totally useless, but they just have to, because they're going to be they have to replace people being driven back. So could the Ukrainians thrust through to to Mariupol, to the coast and the Sea of Azov, and prevent the Russians having a land bridge all the way to Kherson? If Kherson falls and drive forward, they could push them right back to Crimea, and they're just 2 narrow isthmuses connecting Crimea to the mainland of Ukraine, and they'd be cut off, and so on. So being driven back. Anyway, I'm going to sign off now. So thank you so very much indeed for viewing my video. If you wish to support my work, you can do so in numerous ways. First and foremost, kindly press the like button and subscribe to the channel. That will raise my standing with YouTube and assist other people in locating this channel. Secondly, I plead with you to donate through PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. And finally, you can support me on a monthly basis by setting up something at Patreon, patreon.com/George from Ireland. If you become a subscriber on Patreon, you'll be able to access thousands of my podcast episodes and articles that are produced down the decades. And this content was first of all posted on other fora, but soon it shall be available solely through the medium Patreon. More and more content is added on a daily basis, and I shall produce exclusive content that will be not shared anywhere else, and you shall only be able to find it via Patreon. So kindly join today and do not tarry, and take advantage of this one-stop location for all these high-quality materials I've been working on to produce for a very long time. I know that you'll find it well worth your while. So thank you once again for your time and attention. Take care and good night. Toodle pip.